And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
People often talk about gross and disgusting food that other people make, although I would argue that outside of maybe camp food or even that today, there's very little actual disgusting food that people make. People try to do their best. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I tend to like food, as you can tell. But this game, Monster Cafe, is about disgusting food, very disgusting food, but the object, since you're monsters, you'll want to eat the food. It's very cutesy style artwork for kids, this game, but I think adults might get a kick out of it too. Let's take a look. Here's a setup for a 4-player game. There's a set of table cards here, and you're going to put 4 tables in the middle, and then each player is going to take one monster and put that monster face up in front of them. So let's take a look here. This player here starts with a belly button lint eater. This table has deviled dust bunnies. Over here is a dust bunny eater. Over here we have roasted roadkill. Over in this spot is the roadkill eater. Then we have sludge souffle and a toenail eater, yum. And then my favorite, which is stinky sock stew. Now, what players are going to do on their turn is, when it's your turn, and we'll start and go clockwise, you can either draw a monster, and here I got a stinky sock eater, and then you can put them at any table you want. So I might put him at the stinky sock stew table, but I don't have to put him at his matching table. The next player draws a stinky sock eater. He could put him here, which would be crazy, or he could put him up here. And so as players are drawing these, they can take them and basically place them at any table they want. Unless, of course, they draw lemon sorbet, which for us humans is a magnificent thing to eat, but for monsters it's bad. You have to get rid of all of one set of your monsters. So there's always a bit of a kind of a push your luck drawing from this pile. If, however, at any point you don't want to draw a monster, instead you can take a table, you will get the table and all the monsters at that table, you'll put them in front of you, and what you'll do usually is you will stack the table with the monsters that match it. So Stinky Sock Stew goes to the Stinky Sock Eater. And I have 2 toenail eaters here, but I do not have the table for them yet. Eventually, hopefully, I will draw the toenail tartare, or however you pronounce that, which looks pretty gross. So there's, all different sorts of delicious foods. The BBLT, which doesn't sound so bad, does it? But it will sound worse when you have the belly button lint eater coming to the dinner there. There are some anything eaters in the deck, so that when you draw one of those and you match it with a table, you can match it with anyone you want. Once you take a table, you're out for that round. So it keeps going until each player has taken a table. And I suppose each table has a maximum of 4 seats, so it could have all 4 seats around it when you take it. But you have to decide when you want to take a table, and so there's kind of a race to grabbing the tables before other players do. The game will end after a certain number of rounds, basically when the table cards run out, and then each player is going to score. For each table that you have matching people, so let's say here at the end of the game I have a Stinky Sock Stew, and I have a Stinky Sock Eater, and this anything eater, I get 2 points, 1 for each of these guys. But I would also lose points for these toenail eaters unless I had gotten the food that matches them. So if you happen to have 2 tables of the same type, so let's say I had gotten both Stinky Sock Stews, then I would have 4 points. Each of these would be worth 2. And so you will take all your points, add them up, and subtract it for your hungry monsters. Extra tables that you have, like boiled brains, if I don't have anyone who eats boiled brains, that's fine, but I don't lose any points for having extra tables, but you do lose points for having hungry monsters. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. When I played this game, I said, man, it's really reminding me of something, and now that I've gone over and thought about it, it's very close to Coloretto, which is a similar game in which you put out cards and then you try to grab cards of the same color, and then, of course, that was made into a board game called Zularetto right here, which was the same thing, where you could add an animal to a pen, or you could take the pen with all those animals. This is the same thing, maybe a bit simpler, and that's fine, because it works for kids. This is actually a pretty good little game. Because what you're doing is you're trying to put out the cards, and if you have to sit there and go, okay, I can take that table with 3 cards. I can add a 4th card to that table, But if I do, then Bob might take it, and I don't want Bob to get it, but he might not want those. So he has a toenail table, and I have a toenail monster, so I'm going to put it with a different table. And so they're not heavy decisions, they're not hard decisions, but they're good decisions for kids to make because they're sitting there, and kids are taught to think how to do what's best for me. And as they're sitting there, okay, I want to do what's best for me, but at the same time, I don't want to help someone else out very much. So there's a lot of different decisions that they have to make. That works well. That is kind of hidden behind the really good artwork and the cool theme of the game. So I like that aspect to it. I'm not sold on the lemon sorbet cards. I wonder, because really you can get messed over with those, especially if you have a nice collection of monsters and that's all you have is one monster. At the same time, you might want them to get rid of monsters who you can't feed, so they're not all bad. But if you get hit with one at the wrong time, all your planning and stuff can go out the window. But it's a light game, so maybe that doesn't matter. And besides, it's fun to see kids like, ooh, that's delicious. No, it's not, child. You're to eat your BBLT. So anyhow, the game will elicit a lot of laughs over the different monsters that eat eyeballs and brains and toenail clippings and gross stuff like that. But at the same time, it's not just a simple little kids game. It's a little more than that. And so an excellent one, I think, that can be added to collections, Monster Cafe.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.